Okay, so, we're diving into some pretty interesting stuff that you've sent our way this time around. We're looking at a YouTube transcript all about attracting viewers, specifically from the US, the UK, and Canada. And
Yeah, those are some key markets for a lot of creators.
yeah,
And
absolutely. I mean, obviously this deep dive is really focused on figuring out how to actually reach those audiences effectively. I mean, everyone's trying to, grow their channel, grow their influence, and let's face it, probably boost that revenue too.
right, exactly. The kind of thing a dedicated learner like you listening is probably pretty interested in, I bet.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah.
So we've got this transcript from Chiamaka Okuli's YouTube channel as our kind of our roadmap here. And, what we're going to try and do is like distill it down to like the practical stuff. Like what can you actually start thinking about using?
Yeah, I think it's all about like taking those insights and turning them into actions.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. All right, so let's jump right in. So the first thing this transcript really hits on is why even bother with like focusing on viewers from these specific Western countries? And there are some pretty compelling reasons, and it all starts with the one that always gets people's attention: ad revenue.
Yeah, ad revenue is definitely a big one. And the transcript actually does a pretty good job of explaining like the difference between CPM and RPM. CPM being the cost per thousand impressions that advertisers pay,
Hmm.
and then RPM being the revenue per thousand impressions that YouTube pays out to you as the creator.
Right, right. And I think what's important here is like, why does it matter where those viewers are coming from? Like, why does that impact those figures so much?
Well, advertisers in places like the US, the UK, Canada, and Australia, they tend to place a higher value on reaching audiences specifically in those regions.
Right. It's like prime real estate for them in a way.
Yeah, exactly. They've often got like bigger marketing budgets.
Yeah.
They really want to reach those consumers that have a higher disposable income. So like your channel becomes like this valuable asset to them.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So how much of a difference are we talking about here? Like, is it really that significant between, different countries?
Oh yeah, it's definitely noticeable. The transcript gives a pretty like striking example. It says that let's say you get 100,000 views from India, you might make like $50 to $100 in ad revenue.
Okay, but then if those same 100,000 views are coming from the US,
Okay, well then you could be looking at like $500 to $1,500.
wow, that's a huge difference.
Yeah, it's a way more, and it's just because of where the audience is located. It really shows how like not all views are created equal in terms of how much money they can bring in.
Wow. Yeah, that's a really good point. So it's not just about the numbers, it's about like the quality of those numbers.
Precisely, it's about that like economic value that advertisers see in specific groups of people. Those regions often have like more developed consumer markets, and people are just more likely to spend money online. So
Oh.
those viewers are like gold to advertisers.
Right, right. Okay, so then the transcript goes on to the second big reason to target these countries, and that's sponsorship opportunities.
Yeah, sponsorships are huge. I mean, it just makes sense that, big brands in these, wealthier countries
Mm.
are going to have bigger marketing budgets,
Mm.
and they're going to be looking for channels that connect with their target customer.
Yeah. So if you're growing in the US and the UK, your channel's suddenly a lot more attractive to those brands.
Exactly. And what's cool is that it gives you another way to make money,
Right.
beyond just ads. Sponsorships can be like way more lucrative, and they can give you that like reliable income stream.
Yeah. Yeah. Diversification is always good, right?
Absolutely. Then the third point the transcript brings up is audience engagement and then also their purchasing power.
Okay. Yeah. That's a big one because, I mean, engaging viewers is one thing, but if they're actually buying stuff, that's a whole other level.
Right, exactly. And the speaker in the transcript even shares this personal story about how like their online courses sell mostly to people in the US, even though they weren't like actively targeting that market.
Mm. Really? So it just kind of happened naturally.
Yeah, which is pretty interesting, right? It
Yeah.
shows that like people in those regions are often more willing and able to spend money on things they find valuable.
Yeah.
So whether you're selling like digital products or physical stuff or even services, having a lot of your audience in those countries can seriously boost your income.
Wow. That's a really powerful example. Okay, so we've covered the why pretty thoroughly, and it's definitely persuasive. But now let's get into the how. Like, how do you actually attract viewers from these countries? And the transcript gives us 6 actionable strategies.
All right, let's dive into those.
So the first one seems pretty straightforward, but it's super important. Pick a niche that really resonates with the Western world.
Yeah, your content is like the foundation, right?
Yeah.
It's going to dictate who finds it interesting.
Mm.
So the transcript makes this point that certain topics just naturally do better with audiences in the US and the UK. They're more popular, they get more engagement, And that means they're more likely to be commercially successful on YouTube in those regions.
So it's about choosing your battles wisely, in a way?
Exactly. And while our excerpts didn't actually list those specific niches, the original video apparently does. So if you're really serious about this, it's worth checking that out. But the main takeaway is that your content should align with what's both popular and in demand in your target countries.
Okay, great advice. So the second strategy is all about timing, which is something YouTubers always talk about: posting your video at the right time.
Yeah. And this is where those pesky time zones come into play, right?
Hmm.
If you post your video when your main audience in the US is fast asleep, well, you're not going to get the best initial results.
Obviously, so you've got to really think about when your ideal viewer in the US or the UK is most likely to be online, scrolling through YouTube, ready to watch something new.
Yeah, and the transcript mentions that the video gave some general guidelines for good posting times for both the US and the UK. So again, if you want the specifics, definitely go back to the original source. But the main idea is clear. You need to time your uploads to match when your target audience is actually active.
Okay, makes total sense. Now, the third strategy, this is where things get a little more technical. It's about using YouTube's settings for geographic targeting.
Oh, yeah. This one's cool. You can actually tell YouTube where you want your video to be seen, which is pretty powerful.
Yeah, it's like you're giving the algorithm a heads up about where your content's most relevant. So how does this work exactly?
So when you're uploading your video, there's this option where you can basically tell YouTube to prioritize showing it to viewers in specific locations.
So you're not like blocking people from other countries from seeing it, right? It's just more like a nudge in the right direction.
Yeah, exactly. It's more like a suggestion to YouTube's algorithm about where to start recommending your video.
Okay, that's super interesting. So how do you actually do this? Where do you find this setting?
So it's in YouTube Studio.
Yeah.
You go to your list of videos, you pick the one you're working with, and then you click on more options. And then there's a section where you can add a location.
Okay, and then you can choose like US or UK or whatever country you're targeting.
It's exactly super easy, but there's one important catch the transcript mentions, that you can only target one country per video. So you have to make a choice each time you upload.
Right, so if you're trying to reach both the US and the UK, you'd have to alternate or prioritize one over the other.
Yeah, exactly. It's something to keep in mind when you're planning your content.
Okay, great tip. So the fourth strategy for getting those international views is collaborations, working with creators who are already based in those countries.
Collaborations are awesome for this. I
Yeah.
mean, you're basically tapping into their established audience, which is exactly who you're trying to reach.
Yeah, it's like an instant boost in visibility for you.
Exactly. And the transcript talks about how it's not just about that one video you do together. It's also about that creator sharing your other videos with their audience, which can really give you a long-term boost.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. It's all about building those relationships and helping each other out.
Exactly. It's mutually beneficial.
All right, so the fifth strategy is SEO, which is obviously crucial for any YouTuber, but with a specific geographic twist.
Right. So this is about using hashtags and optimizing your content to attract viewers from those specific countries.
So are we talking about like just using the country name and hashtags, or is there more to it?
Yeah, so the transcript specifically says to include the target country in your hashtags. So instead of just saying something like business advice, you could say small business tips, USA.
Okay, so it's about being more specific with those keywords.
Exactly. And it's not just hashtags, right?
Yeah.
You can also put those location-specific keywords in your video titles and descriptions.
Right, so when someone in the US searches for something related to your content, your video is more likely to pop up.
Precisely. It's all about tailoring your SEO to those specific geographic areas.
Okay, awesome. So then the sixth and final strategy outlined in the transcript is paid advertising, which gives you a lot more control over who sees your videos.
Yeah, paid advertising is great because you can literally choose who you want to target. You can set up campaigns to specifically show your videos to viewers in the UK or the US.
Wow, so you can get super granular with it.
Oh yeah, you can even target based on demographics, interests, past viewing behavior, like the whole 9 yards.
So it's definitely worth exploring if you're serious about reaching those specific audiences.
Definitely, it can be a really effective way to get your content in front of the right people.
Okay, so before we wrap up, there was one more really valuable tip in the transcript, and it's about promoting your videos in US and UK-based social media groups.
Oh yeah, those niche communities can be gold mines for finding engaged viewers.
So like Facebook groups, subreddits, online forums, things like that.
Exactly, you got to meet your audience where they already are.
Yeah.
So the transcript gives some examples like subreddits about entrepreneurship or UK personal finance Facebook groups.
So you're basically tapping into those pre-existing communities where people are already interested in those topics.
Exactly. And if your content is relevant, it can really resonate with them.
Okay, awesome. So there you have it, folks. A whole bunch of actionable strategies to help you get more views from the US, the UK, and Canada.
And remember, it's not just about vanity metrics, right? It's about attracting viewers who are more likely to engage with your content, become loyal subscribers, and ultimately contribute to your channel's growth and your income.
Exactly. It's all about quality over quantity and understanding the value of those different audiences.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So now it's up to you listening. What are you going to do with this information? How are you going to adapt your content and your promotion strategy to connect with those valuable viewers in the US, the UK, and Canada?
It's a challenge, but it's an exciting one, right? Because if
Mhm.
you can crack that code, it can really take your channel to the next level.
Absolutely. The potential is huge.
Yeah.
So go out there, experiment, try new things, and see what works for you.
Couldn't agree more. Well, that's a wrap for this deep dive. As always, thanks for sending us such interesting stuff to explore, and thanks for joining us on this journey.
Until next time, happy creating.
And don't forget to keep those brains engaged.
Always learning, always growing.
See ya.